What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So we are in the middle of putting a motor in this 1969 Corvette. I know you guys have seen it before if you watch our channel. My mom actually drives this car and races it in the same class that we run the 67 in. She's been running this car for about the last 2 years. Actually, it wasn't even planned for her to have this car. She's actually got an orange 69 Corvette. Her car doesn't have a cage in it, and this car does. So that's why we ended up putting her in this, because this car has a 850 serted cage in it. The car had a factory stock motor in it. It's been the best of like 1040 something. It actually is the fastest pure stock Corvette in the fast racing series. There's a fast class, which you are allowed to do pretty much anything internally. Pure stock is pretty much like blueprinted engines. It's the class that Ryan runs the green 67 in. And this car is actually the record holder in that class, but it's time for her to go faster now. This thing's gonna have potential to go low nines because this motor just made killer horsepower on the dyno. This is a 512 cubic inch big block Chevy. This thing is gonna be a high revving big block Chevy. I mean, we're gonna rev it to probably somewhere around 9 grand. So we're gonna finish putting this thing together, get it on the dyno, and then I'll give you guys a quick update on the 67 and where I'm at right now with it. This thing has been together and apart a million times. I've got the front end apart now because I'm trying to work on the bump steer and get the thing to not toe in when the front end lifts, which I'll get to that in a second. But on the rear, I have this thing all back together, and look at all the room we've got now. We gained a bunch of room in there. So now we could probably put a good tire on this thing and get the testing that we need, and then go to the bias ply. But we ran into an issue by doing that. Now we had to get a shorter rear spring. So right now, if you look at it, you can see the rear spring is almost touching the wheel, and that is not good. So we ended up getting a shorter spring. It actually showed up today, which is a day late. I was gonna try to get this thing to the track yesterday, but we've been waiting on parts. So the rear end should be done this weekend. Hopefully I've got the front end done this weekend. So what I've got is, where did it go? I don't even know where my parts went. Pretty much I'm taking this heim right here, putting it in the tie rod, and then I'm going to lower the tie rod point with one of these long bolts, whichever one, and use these shims right here and right here to get the front angle of the tie rod to match, I'm going the wrong way, front angle of the tie rod to match the angle of the lower control arm. That way when the front end lifts, like if the front end lifts right now, this thing would want to toe in, which makes it hard to drive when you're on the throttle. You want the tires to stay straight, whether the front end's up or down, because as the front end comes up and then you jump on the brakes, if your bump steer is not set right, the thing will swerve and go all over the place when you're in the brakes. Might drive good on the throttle, or the opposite way, drive good on the brakes, drive like crap on the throttle. Trying to make this thing drive like a Cadillac on the throttle and off the throttle. That way we don't have an issue. We're gonna finish putting this thing together, hopefully get it on the dyno, make some pulls, and then I might start working on the 67. So this thing is running, and on the dyno, still gotta put the alternator on it. That way we can run the belt. But other than that, this thing is ready to go. And then we've got this makeshift box sitting up here that is the control panel. We've got to actually sit my mom in here and see exactly where she can reach. Might have to put some bar switches up here. The little Holley-fi display up there, so that's going to tell us water temp, fuel pressure, oil pressure, and air fuel ratio. We can actually pick anything we want to display on that, but those are the 4 that we display. Because really nothing else matters while we're going down the track. Those gauges down there don't actually work. But this thing's got the vacuum pump and everything mounted on the back. So everything is ready to go on this thing, I believe. Actually, I was not here yesterday, and my dad actually did everything and got this thing on the dyno ready for us to dyno today. So yeah, I'm going to get the dyno fired up. I'll show you what this thing made previously with the other motor in it, which has been 1040, I believe. 1042, 1037, something like that. I don't exactly remember. So let's see, 541 is what it made. all plug wires on. We must have made a pull not with a plug wire. Yep, so there it is, 541. That brings up the entire thing. We don't need virus protection on this computer. We don't even use the internet. Yep, pulled that thing to 7 grand. That's about all she would rev because of the class rules on spring pressure. And yeah, you can see right there, 68.84 is where this thing topped out. This thing fell flat on its face because it would float the valves big time. So I'm going to warm this thing up, get all the garage doors open in here, get the fans going, and start making pulls. Are we hitting the drive shaft loop?
What it jumped to when you kicked it?
I don't remember. I was watching the air fuel gauge, but that just made 642. Only pulled it to about 7 grand. The thing is fat. Let me get the log out. See exactly what it was. I think it was like a 10.5. They're always fat when they come off the dyno because they have like a tube coming in from outside, whereas we dyno them with the hoods closed, air cleaner in and everything, to simulate going down the racetrack as much as possible. So we've always got to jet them when they come off the engine dyno. All right, we just went down 6 jet sizes because this thing was fat at a like 10.6, 10.5, somewhere around there. Try to run it, really probably try to run around a 12.5. Don't exactly know where it's happy yet, but that should get us somewhere close. 70 that time, hit the rev limiter. I think the rev limiter's set at 8,800. And it banged the rev limiter and it's not done making power yet. Yes, the rev limiter is 8,800. It did not rev to 9 grand on the tack. We got something going on. I thought it hit it close to 8. But this rev limiter set at 8,800. All right, as you can see behind me, the car is off the dyno. I mean, it's still sitting there, but it's not bolted to the dyno anymore. Couple things to why we didn't push it anymore. One, that's plenty of power for my mom. She's been going 1050s, 1040s. I think she even tickled the 1030s in this car, and she wants to go a little bit faster, but not crazy fast. Don't want to unleash her in a low 9-second car just yet. Gonna probably detune this thing even more at the track, let her get used to it, go 980s, 990s, and then start putting some power into it and letting her get used to it. Still, this thing's got factory stock shocks all the way around, stock springs. I mean, it's not set up to be a legit race car just yet, but for what she wants to do with it, it'll work just fine. The other reason is this thing has a MSD Digital 7 that actually fires the coil. Holley does not have the capabilities to fire the coil for a distributor on these cars. So the MSD box has an internal rev limiter, and I believe we're hitting the MSD's rev limiter at 7,800 because the Holley rev limiter is set to 8,800, and this thing has been pulled all the way to 8,800 on the engine dyno and made it there and made power up there. But on the dyno, we pulled it to 7,700 when it hit the limiter, and that's why in the video I said, oh, it already went to 8,800, and I was confused because I knew the rev limiter in the Holley was set at 8,800, and it actually only pulled to 7,700. So hopefully that's an internal rev limiter in the MSD box, and we can turn that off. I don't have the adapter. It needs a serial data cable to USB port, and I don't have that. We never go internally into the MSD boxes. For some reason, this one's got the rev limiter on, I believe. So hopefully that's the issue. If that's not the issue, that's not going to be fun chasing that. But got a few more things to do to this thing till it's ready. I don't know. Hopefully get this thing and the red 67 to the track. Probably maybe this week, probably next week. So we've got a big thing coming for you guys. If you guys like mid-year Corvettes, mid-year Corvette parts, we're actually going to buy a gentleman's collection that passed away. There's 6 cars, tons of parts in his basement, and his garage, and his pole building. Gentleman passed away. His wife's getting rid of all of his stuff, and we were fortunate enough to be able to purchase it all. Cars that have not been on the road since the 70s. I mean, it's huge barn find deal. I know we're taking at least like 7 or 8 trucks and trailers, a bunch of people to load this stuff up. I'm going to try to take people to just record and not help move stuff around. That way we can try to get everything and fit everything into a couple videos. But yeah, we got that. We got to take these things to the racetrack. I got to get the 67 done. I've actually got to finish that and this, and actually a couple other things that we have in the big garage that have been here. One is another fast car, a 66 Chevelle that's got to be done. And then there is another Corvette being dropped off here pretty soon to get worked on and get finished for the rest of the season. So we are as busy as can be, but I'm trying to knock these videos out for you guys. Was hoping to get a little more footage with this, but ended up not being able to. But hopefully here we'll be getting to the racetrack, getting a bunch of cool footage for you. We do have those mid-year Corvettes that we're going to get. That should be some cool videos, so make sure you guys subscribe. That's gonna wrap this video up, so thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.